Good morning, everybody. My name is Lucia Giovannini, and I wake up every morning with a purpose to empower people through positive change so that they may create better lives for themselves and for all sentient beings that we are so interconnected with. And I'm also a transformational speaker and author of 13 books, including A Whole New Life, which just launched at the US bookstores. And in this inspirational new life series, I will be chatting with inspiring men and women who have discovered how to harness the power of change and create a whole new life that is truly fulfilling and authentic to who they are. And my next guest on this series is Derek Sivers. And Derek is a writer, an entrepreneur with a very, very interesting background. Derek is best known for being the founder and former president of CD Baby, an online CD store for independent musicians. And Derek has also been a musician, producer, circus performer, TED speaker, book author, book publisher. Derek's life also includes living in multiple cities across the world. Born in California, he moved to Boston to study music, and then after graduating, he moved to New York to work at Warner Music. 2 years later, he toured Japan as a guitarist, after which he then made a few more significant moves, including living in Oregon, Santa Monica, London, San Francisco, Singapore. That's actually where we met with Derek, New Zealand, and finally Oxford, England, which is where he now resides. So today, I'm really honored and excited to chat with Derek on what it takes to follow the heart, even if that will take you on the road less traveled, so that you can create the life you've always dreamed of. So welcome, Derek, and thank you for being part
Thanks,
of
Lucia.
the series. It's
Thank
so
you.
nice to see you again.
It's been years. I'm so glad
Years.
we're doing this. Thank you.
Years, yeah. So, and I'm particularly honored to have you here because I know about your saying yes to less policy. So,
Yeah. This is the first interview I've done in over 3 years.
wow, that
And
makes,
it's because it's you.
thank you. That makes it so precious.
I've said no to everything for 3 years until now.
Thank you very, very much. So normally my first question is, how were you able to create your whole new life? But for you, it seems that change is a constant and there is a continuous reinvention process. So tell us about the moments in your life when you had a turning point, that some way you knew you were on the brink of a change in your life. So how does this change process work in your life?
I'll talk about a couple. Your thing is all about following the heart, but sometimes I've found it useful to do some things that my head knows is the right thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
even if my heart cries no. And I'll give an example, because without an example, that might sound wrong. First one I can think of is, no, okay, I'm going to mention a few. So first one, I was just a full-time musician for like 15 years. That's all I cared about in the whole world, was just making music. And then when I was 29 years old, that's when I started CD Baby just as a hobby. But then it just took off, and suddenly, whereas nobody really cared that much about my music, suddenly this little internet record store I had started, everybody wanted it, and suddenly my inbox was filled with everybody asking if they could please sign up, and so that was the first major change in my life, where I feel like I didn't really make that decision. It's almost like the world decided for me. You know what I mean? I could have fought it. I could have said, no, I don't care that the whole world wants this from me. No, I won't do it. And that's fair. Some people do that, like, especially if somebody's already famous. You know, you think of like a famous comedian that doesn't feel like being funny anymore. The whole world is like, no, come on, you're supposed to be funny. And I'm like, I don't feel like doing that anymore. I'm sure there are times when some people have to say no to the whole world. But my first big change was really just going with the flow of what the world clearly wanted from me. So that one was easy.
Mhm.
Um, but then the the next one that I should talk about is then when I sold CD Baby,
Yeah.
I felt lost for a while because it was all I had been doing for 10 years, every single waking hour. And I did not have a good work-life balance. I was just a workaholic. So, working 12-hour days, 7 days a week for 10 years. And
Wow.
so when I sold it, I didn't know who I was or what I was doing. I just kind of wanted to disappear. So I'll admit that I probably spent about a year just floating and drifting, not sure what I wanted to do. And then suddenly, really just in a flash of inspiration on an airplane, I suddenly said, oh my God, I know what I want to do. Like, I want to be like a TED speaker, like a writer, thinker kind of guy that people care about my thoughts. Because up until then, I had just been the guy that ran the record store. Nobody cared about my thoughts. They just wanted my shop. Um, so at the time, I was really into watching TED Talks, and it felt like this is a vision I could grow into, or this is a new identity I could really grow into. So by the time the plane landed, I had a very concrete, deliberate plan of how I was going to achieve that. Um, but so I don't know if you would call that heart or head or a little bit of both, but here's the example I was leading towards, where my head says we need to do something even though my heart disagrees.
Mhm.
Is twice now I have made a move from a very comfortable place where I was first living in Santa Monica, California, on the beach, loved it like crazy, loved living there. And I actually got too comfortable where I felt if I don't force myself to leave, I'm just going to be in some kind of early retirement where I'm just going to stay here for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Um, so I made myself leave my comfort zone, even though everybody said, what, how could you always talk about how much you love that place, how could you leave? And I said, it's because I love it too much, I need to force myself to leave.
Yeah.
And even I was kind of that way about America in general. I forced myself to leave America and never live there again, uh, really just because I was so comfortable. And this is this example is very fresh to me now because this is what I just did 1 month ago last week,
With New Zealand.
where I love New Zealand so much. I was so happy there. It was just, it's my favorite place on earth. And I made myself leave, partially for parenting reasons. I wanted my kid to have a more rounded view of the world instead of just from that one island. Um, but yeah, my heart screamed and cried and said, no, don't go. I felt like a child being ripped away from its mother,
Mm.
but I knew it was the right thing to do headwise. So yeah, so I did it, and that's very fresh. That's I'm here in Oxford, England right now. I just moved here a month ago last week.
Yeah. Well,
Does that help? Does that answer your question?
yeah, yeah, it does. It does actually. It seems like a mix of both head and heart. Meaning, um, it seems that a priority for you is not to fall on your comfort zone and live your whole life
Mm-hmm.
from your comfort zone, but sort of challenge yourself to grow, to move, to make new experiences. And in that,
Yeah.
yes, it may be the head, meaning it's a rational decision. At the same time, probably it has also to do with intuition and following your in a way your life path to
Yeah, and
evolve and to grow.
yeah, and intuition sometimes can just mean the culmination of everything we've learned. So I guess just because I've read and learned a lot about personal growth and have a certain set of values that say that at least for my own values, I'm not going to push these on others, but for me, I just want to always keep growing. So for me, it's important to push myself out of my comfort zone to kind of force growth, even if the heart just wants to be comfortable.
Yeah, because in that sense, as you said, sometimes the heart wants to be comfortable, and I mean, live in a nice place. We know we have all our, habits and reference points and places, but that doesn't make us grow. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, and are there any skills, habits, routines that can help we can call it reinvention process, if you know and the reinvention process has also to do with growing, with changing, with evolving, rather than doing the same thing over and over your whole life just for the sake of being safe and in your comfort zone.
Yeah, I guess if you've ever quit doing anything, like if you've quit smoking or quit drinking or quit eating sugar or quit or had a breakup where you had to quit calling somebody that you wanted to call, then I think the process is very similar, where you have to stop doing what you're used to doing. Yeah, I think that, and then it's a very deliberate, conscious. Sorry, I guess it's a given. I forget to mention it sometimes, that I spend hours in my journal just writing to myself, just processing. I very often I ask myself questions, and I sit down for an hour and I answer them, and I ask myself some more questions. Is this what I really want? What if I change my mind? What's the most direct way of getting it? What am I really after? What's the ultimate goal? I ask myself all these questions, and I just write and I write and I write. I just type like crazy, answering all of these questions I bring up. So I think a lot of it happens there.
Yeah, that is so important. That's something I also do, and I actually advise people doing. Actually, my book is full of questions, because it's through questions that we can really understand better, I mean, what's going on here and here, and also what our next steps for in life. Definitely, I mean, otherwise, if we stop asking questions, we just end up like zombies following with the mainstream.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And I think writing really helps, because yes, a lot of people will sit and talk over these things with their friends, or they'll just lay in bed and think about them at night. But I think actually writing it down helps you form your thoughts more. I know it's kind of a pain, especially for people that aren't used to doing it, but I think it's really handy to, especially. So I keep a daily diary just of like what I did today, but I also keep journals on specific subjects. So I'll have anytime I have a subject that I think I'm going to have more thoughts on this subject, I'll start a new journal that's just on that subject. So like a year ago, I thought about getting a dog. I started getting fascinated with the idea of getting a dog. So I have a journal on my thoughts about getting a dog. And there are over a year's worth of entries, and I'm finally getting a dog next week.
Wow.
But that was like after a year of thinking about it, and I wanted to see, is just this a temporary whim? Why do I want a dog? What would I do with a dog? What if I want to travel and I have a dog? I just think through things a lot. So I think if you have a certain subject in your journal, like quitting my job, or making a change, or moving to Thailand, then I think it's helpful to start a journal on that subject, and return back to that journal and write more on that subject, where you can see all of your previous thoughts. And it really helped me to go back. Sometimes when I thought I was having a new thought, I would open up my journal to write about it and say, oh, I already wrote this down a few months ago. I'm still having the exact same thought I was a few months ago. Okay, it can be useful to know that my thoughts persist on this, and that was not just a mood that changed.
Yes, in fact, I read in your blog that also the idea of moving to Oxford was already there.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, 12 years.
Yeah. That is very interesting. Actually, there's one process that I advise people to do, and I do use it myself also. And I start with a sentence like, "I want to get a dog," for example.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ask as many questions as possible on that sentence. Like, why should I get a dog? Which kind of dog? Why now? How should I get
Mm-hmm.
it, etc., etc. So any kind of question, and normally I don't stop until I have at least 50 questions, and then out of
Nice. Wow.
50, I choose the most interesting one, because of course there are some
Mm-hmm.
questions which are not relevant or are, I mean, really not interesting. But some of those, forcing myself in a way to ask so many questions brings me to a sort of a deeper state, and then I pick the questions that are more interesting, and I answer to those. So it's
Nice.
yeah,
It helps to try to argue with yourself too. Like, try to talk yourself out of something. Don't just, if you have an idea, don't just support it.
yes,
Try to see if you can talk yourself out of it and argue against it. And I do, like, I think that's actually ends up being one of the most useful things, because I have actually successfully talked myself out of things many times. And I'm so glad in hindsight that because I pushed and challenged that first idea, that I realized it wasn't very stable. And I'm glad I talked myself out of it in the journal stage. Otherwise, I would have actually done it, made some big expensive change in my life, and then realized it was a mistake because it was too fragile.
yeah. So you sing the counter melody also to yourself.
Yes.
That's another strategy. Very, very interesting strategy. True, true. So to try to see things, it also means trying seeing things from different perspective, not just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because that's what good friends do, right? I mean,
Yes.
if your friends are supposed to, I mean, yeah, a lot of our friends just provide emotional support and say, oh yeah, I'm on your side no matter what. But good friends will often try to talk you out of things or challenge you, so you can do that with yourself.
Yeah, to probe you, definitely. Definitely. As a matter of fact, it's a part in my book where I talk about, when I talk about the phases of change, there is this part, the part of decision, and it has a probing part, a part where we actually need to probe ourselves. Is it really, this what I want, and what if, in a way play the devil's advocate. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I have a third and last question. If there was someone listening who is currently wanting to make a major shift in their life, pursue their dream, whether that means starting a new business or following their creative desire, but that would require them to significantly change the current path they are on. That would require maybe to leave their comfort zone. What would be the one message you would like them to take away and carry with them for the rest of their lives?
Hmm. Um, hmm. Okay, I'll say the unpopular thing.
Yeah.
Um, that don't discount the power of money.
Uh-huh.
That uh, I think a lot of people, when they're feeling emotionally charged and inspired, they say, you know what, this is what I want, even though it's not going to pay me anything, and it's not, I don't care, that doesn't matter to me. But man, I've found over and over again that it makes a huge difference to make a change in your life. It's almost like there was a book about career change where he called the expertise you've built up in your career, he calls it career capital,
Mm-hmm.
using the same word that people use for money or funds. It's capital. Um, so he said, what you've built up in your life so far all the people you know, the expertise you've built, the reputation that you've earned, everything you've learned in your industry, and even just, you know, sometimes just your job title, your rank, can all be career capital. And he said you need to think of it like as if they're gold coins, that you don't throw it away. You don't just say, I hate my job as a lawyer, I'm sick of it, I want to be a yoga teacher. You don't just quit your job at the law firm and try to start as a yoga teacher. Instead, he recommends spend your career capital, make a smart transition, and use the value that you've built up to say make new connections or bring your existing clients into your yoga business or whatever it is, and only after you've kind of spent your capital and you've eased your transition, then you can make what he calls it, making a sideways move
Yeah.
into another career. So instead of starting from bottom, you jump sideways to the new career. So you're starting in your new transition, your new career, your new phase. You're starting kind of equal to where you were at the previous one, but you kind of switch ladders,
Yeah.
and keep going up instead of starting over. And I find that, you know, money, we have a lot of emotional baggage around money, but sometimes I have to remember myself that I have to remind myself that it's really just a neutral indicator of value that can be, I mean, that's kind of how money started, right? Because you
Exactly.
might not necessarily, the man growing the wheat might necessarily not want your pig that you have to offer. So you sell your pig for coins and you give the coins to the man that has the wheat. You know, that's where this all started. And so it's this kind of the same thing with the experience that we've built up. You might not be able to trade it directly, but that's what money's for. And so don't forget, in all of your impassioned and emotional transition moments, don't forget the power of saving your money and using it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. You're right. You said I'm gonna go the unpopular way. It's true because normally, you know, personal growth says follow your heart, but I've always seen lots of people, you know, then after they made this transition, you know, I mean, deal with money problems, and at that point,
Yeah.
the focus was, oh, I have to work because I have to make it work because I have to, you know, earn my money, pay my bills, etc. And at that point, you know, passion goes a little bit sideways, meaning.
Yeah.
So that's why I love your advice so much. You know, the possibility of you know going from one side to the other without necessarily having to start back again from the bottom. So yeah, it's a
And
wise.
if any of the listeners are interested in more thoughts on that, the book that gave me that I was kind of quoting, it's called "So Good They Can't Ignore You" by Cal Newport.
Okay.
Yeah, everything I said there in your third question was kind of quoting him. So if you want to hear more thoughts on it, that's the source.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Derek. It's been
Yeah.
such a pleasure to chat with you and to
Yeah.
see you again. And I mean, I think we've covered important points here. So I hope also
Cool.
for our listeners, it's been such an interesting conversation. Thank
I
you.
hope so. Yeah, of course. And congratulations on your book. And anybody, if you want to email me, just go to sivers.org, my website. I put my email addresses out in the public, and I actually really like it when strangers email me and introduce themselves. So please do.
Yes, yes. We'll definitely, you'll find Derek at sivers.org and at his email. And he has always very interesting, you know, points, very interesting advice, and very interesting blog. So thank you.
Thanks, Lucia. Thank
And if you are inspired by this interview and would like to learn more about how to create, you know, your whole new life and make positive changes in your life, click on the link below to order your copy of A Whole New Life. And stay tuned on my Facebook page for the next interview tomorrow, and also on join my Whole New Life Facebook group. And see you in the next days. Thank you.